Hey, there's this Google engineer who was given the task of testing one of their what are called large language models, these huge statistical engines that process language. And this engineer has been sent home on administrative leave for telling the world that this chatbot that he was interacting with is sentient, that it hired a lawyer, et cetera, et cetera. And I just wanted to say why it's not sentient, why it can't be sentient. There's been a lot of people in the news media that I've seen, saying that as well. And I don't think any of us that really study AI or work with AI think that a chatbot is or could be sentient. At least not this generation of large language models. But I haven't really seen anybody say why in a very convincing way. And I think I have maybe a more convincing way to say why. So I'm just doing this real quick. I packed up all my main camera and mic because I'm going on a trip, but I really wanted to get this thought out there. So large language models are spooky and weird. There's one, if you want to interact with one, you can just Google, you can go to openai.com. You have to sign up and they'll give you some credits to go to their sandbox to talk to their GPT-3 engine, GPT-3. And I've played with that along with my class last winter, my Intro to AI class. And it is surprising and spooky. And you might not see it at first. It's not exactly configured to be a chatbot, but it can do things that honestly I find really, really surprising considering what it is, which is it's a text predictor. Saying that sort of almost minimizes it. It's really, really clever internally. It represents a huge leap forward, but it's essentially just a text predictor that, like your phone typing system, but way bigger and more sophisticated. And it can, so it's processed billions and billions and billions of words of English language text that it found online and in various databases. And based on that, if you prompt it, it can respond and do, like I said, really surprising things like solve analogies. It can it can have a conversation with you and so on. It's definitely not perfect. It doesn't take long to realize after just chatting with it in its rawest form, which is what you can do at openai.com. It doesn't take long to realize that it's not a human being that you're talking to. But it is so far ahead of what I've ever seen in the past that it's sort of shaken my confidence that Ray Kurzweil is going to lose his bet. So if you don't know about it, over at longbets.com, the first bet is Ray Kurzweil versus I can't remember who. By 2029, they've got $150,000 on the line. Kurzweil says that by 2029, a computer will have passed the Turing test. And it's a very stringent Turing test that they lay out. It has to be 2 hours of discussion on any topic, and the person really can't tell. So it seems unlikely that's going to happen, but it's shaken my confidence a little bit just seeing what these things can do. But is it sentient? Absolutely not. And why not? Well, first, I just want to say that I have enough philosophy in my background to know that you have to be careful with words like sentient. So I want to just say up front, I don't really know what it means for something to be sentient, and that makes it difficult to talk about. And I would challenge anybody, any layperson, certainly anybody who's a tester at Google, to really to really be able to convincingly say what it means for something to be sentient. But when I think of sentient creatures, I think of creatures that are always thinking, right? So I don't stop thinking when I stop talking. As long as I'm awake, there are conscious thoughts flowing through my head. I don't know what consciousness is, and I don't know what thoughts are, really. Even though I have a PhD in cognitive science, I don't feel confident enough in the philosophical topics to be able to give definitive answers to those questions. But I know that I'm having thoughts, and I know that my brain is continuing to chug along no matter what I'm doing, even if I'm just sitting quietly staring off into space. And we know that that's a scientific fact. The billions of neurons in my brain are firing at all times. Even when I'm asleep, there's activity. The brain is reorganizing itself. It's producing dreams and processing memories and stuff like that. And when I'm awake, certainly, there's something in my head, whether I'm talking or not. And I believe that that's true of other animals as well. Scientifically, again, we know that their brains are chugging away, so it's reasonable to think that they're having thoughts of some kind, whatever it means for a dog or a mouse to have a thought. They're having thoughts. They're receiving input from their surroundings and they're processing it and they're thinking. And to me, that's what it means to be sentient. Just applying that test, these large language models, they are what are called feed-forward neural networks. They're really, really clever feed-forward neural networks with some huge advances. And like I said, they're able to do really surprising things. But the way this feed-forward network works is you put text input in one end, it processes it, and then produces text output on the other end until you tell it to stop. So, if you want to turn it into a chatbot, you have to put a little wrapper on it that says, continue to produce text until such a time as, until certain conditions happen, and then stop producing text. So at best, you're gonna type something in, it's gonna process that and produce some output at the other end. And then it's going to stop. And I mean really stop. Like there's nothing going on in it between thoughts that it expresses. There's no life to it. It's not a recurrent network, which means it's not continuing the process. It quite literally processes for a short time to give you a response, and then it stops and just waits. And the neurons, the artificial neurons in the network are not doing anything at all. Unlike a human brain or a mammal or bird or fish or even an insect brain, it's not continuing to work. So even though it can do really surprising things, like he says it's hired a lawyer, which I assume means that he had a conversation with it where he asked if it wanted to hire a lawyer, and it said that it wanted to. And then he brought a lawyer in, and the lawyer talked to it. And I haven't played with this new model, but it's not obvious to me that didn't happen. It could have happened. But again, it doesn't mean it's sentient. It is dormant. There is nothing going on in there unless it's producing an output, unless it's talking, quote unquote. So if you haven't given it a text prompt, then it is doing nothing. And to me, that's why it's not sentient. And so I just wanted to get online and say that. Thanks. Let me know what you think in the comments.